Okay, a lot has transpired yesterday after my upload about how MetroCare, what they said about services. By she's a caseworker. Well, what was going on yesterday is that I have a problem with my doctor's appointment. I had a problem with therapy, trying to get therapy. When I was at Parkland Hospital, they told me that they were going to set up therapy. Last night, I just found out I'm on the X program, which is a program for special needs offenders. So that's the program that they put me on to help me. I was told in the hospital that they were going to set me up for therapy. That's not what happened. So on this program, they're supposed to be very detail oriented in making sure that individual, since they're on offenders, that they have their medication and they have all their mental needs met, which is, the program is kind of demeaning because I'm not special needs and, I have multiple false arrests. But okay. So, but on the program, there's a problem with my medicine. So they're really sabotaging my mental health needs. Which, if you're trying to frame someone for mental illness and drive them insane, you don't want them to have mental clarity or mental health. Okay, so before, Akia, the case manager at the other Metro Care, would not report the child abuse and multiple other things. So now these case managers, they're saying that they will report. So Brittany, we called to report, and I think she said that was, I don't remember the location, and they told us to speak with Fontaine, that he was the case manager over it. So I tried to report to Fontaine that multiple false statements were made, and he wouldn't take it. Because I did a report back in another report in May saying that we were exploited. Okay, so I wanted the status of that report around, no, it was the beginning of June. So I wanted the status of that report. So he said that he was not going to update it in the system. And I said, well, hindering a child custody agreement is a criminal offense. I said that and then we called on Brittany's phone. He said, I'm not CPS. I said, what? They told me to call you and you were CPS. You told me you were CPS. He said, well, I'm not CPS. Because I told him hindering a child custody agreement was a crime. So then he said he wasn't CPS and hung up, and she admitted that that was weird. And we called on her phone. Okay, so the CPS would not take the report that false statements are being made. Why do I consider in the case number? Okay, I'll go move forward with Janissa. So she called on her phone. So on her phone, we talked to a lady named Brenda that said that we needed to speak with Emily. Okay, they gave me, for the exploitation of me, they gave me the case number. I think it's out. I may have it. Oh, yes, for my case number, it's 47665239. Okay, for my daughter, I reported that both of us were getting exploited. For my daughter, they gave me an old case number, 47662490, which is closed. They're not updating it. I've called multiple times. What is the child abuse? What are they covering for? Okay, and how big is the corruption that what is being covered? Okay, it started in the Tasca. Okay, we have been getting gang stalked, whether people believe it or not, gang stalked in for a long time and railroaded. So in Itasca, my daughter would come home and tell me to cry and say that she was being mistreated by the teachers. They let her wet herself. She came home crying then. She said she felt all alone. And then the people in the neighborhood were acting strange too. She was even scared to go outside and play. She wouldn't go outside and play. And then I had a predicament. The school closed down for a whole week. I got a new job. So we picked them up on Friday. The school closed Monday. And we went every day that week. The school was closed. Tuesday was closed. And we didn't know. They said that it was the outbreak of the flu. This happened, I believe it was in March or February. So it was strange when I got the new job, because I got the job intentionally while my daughter was at school. So I had to let this lady keep her, and that's when she got strangled. The little girl strangled her. So I'm not aware, because all these schemes of what's going on are set up. But she was terrified in Itasca. So moving forward, so she said all these were going on. So then she started failing. They didn't know that I routinely look at her graded papers all the time, and she was getting good grades. So I I called the superintendent, I called the principal, I called CPS because I called CPS because they called CPS on me and said that I was abusing her because I let her walk to school. And I said, we don't have a car and the bus doesn't drive here, so they dismissed that case. So I called CPS to let them know while they're reporting me, there's a lot going on with her treatment by these teachers at the school. So they would call me and tell me that my daughter had what she wasn't doing in school, that she couldn't do this and she couldn't do that. So gave her a little test of what they said she couldn't do. And it completed everything that they said she couldn't do. And I sent it back to the school and to ask them if they could sign it. And they didn't sign it or bring it back or anything. So moving forward. So I called the superintendent, I called the principal, and I said that, these grades that they're giving my daughter is not the graded papers that she has. So they ignored it. So then she failed. And then another time she failed again. They were saying that she was going to fail with a 40. Well, I was looking at her paper. She was making A's and B's, and plus she had a hard test that she made a 90-something on. It was a hard test. She got recognized. They did not have that test in this paper, in the progress report that she was about to fail. So I called the police because I called the superintendent and everything, and she already failed before. Nobody did anything. So I called the police. CPS wouldn't do anything. So I called the police. So at that time, the police wasn't corrupt. So she went to the school because she could see that something was suspicious. She said, I have a daughter. Yeah, and this doesn't look right. So she went up to the school, and then she said that the principal's behavior was odd. She said that as a police. So she got it straight, and they changed the grade within 5 hours to the 40 that she was failing on to an 80 something. And if you ask me, it was above 80. She was getting high 80s. But they gave her an 80 after the police got involved. So then they started passing around the community, I'm mentally ill, after they did this. So she had a ride because I was terrified with us going through all that. We had a break-in. I called the police on that and got a police report. My car windows were busted out. All kinds of crazy things were going on, and they could see the car windows busted out. And then the police at the time, I don't know what was going on. He said that he watched the house a little bit more. I attributed to I was doing something online just for my friends, like a little show on the internet. I attributed to that these people were just going crazy and in my business watching this little show, but it was just for my friends because I like motivational things, and I said that I just do it for fun. I couldn't get a job or anything, so I said I just do this. That's the kind of person that I am, even though it may not be what it looks like. I volunteer. I had the basketball team over. We go swimming. I volunteered at church. In my meltdown, can't find that person. I couldn't either. So anyway, moving forward from that, so the CPS went here. We had the car windows broken out. We had thefts and all these things going on, and I attributed to the little thing I thought that I was doing on the internet just for my friends. That's why I thought it was so much action. I thought I was a mini celebrity. I didn't realize that I was getting stalked and what was going on. So then it gets so bad, and the reason why I think he thought he had cameras is because I would do things in the house, and I'd see posts of what I'm doing on pages. I would see posts on all these fake pages of what I'm doing. I see advertisements of clothes I had on. He would tell me down to what color panties I had on, what I was doing. So I said, "Are you watching me?" And he was. So the only way that I could think that he could see what I'm doing, because I had my camera covered up on my phone and on my laptop, that he had cameras in the house. So I called the police department and I said, "Can you check and see if he has cameras? So this man is posting this stuff that I'm doing in my house." I was renting, so it wasn't my house, but I said that he's posting what I'm doing and all these fake pages and on these chats on YouTube. Can you please come investigate and see if that you find cameras? They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it, period. And I said, please, 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 please. He is telling me what he's doing in here, and they would not do anything. So anyway, moving forward from that. So I leave. Because they're not doing anything. I go to a domestic violence shelter and I try to make plans. I did not think that the police would be involved in anything like this at that time. So I just ignored, I didn't. So anyway, I went to the domestic violence shelter. so we can make plans. He knew what was going on at the domestic violence shelter. So she tried to make up a safety plan, help me with a safety plan. So we set up a safety plan. So they had got bed bugs there, so I left and went back to the house where the cameras were at. When I got back, he had a false arrest set up for me on the 28th. So I called, before the false arrest, I called the school and I said, I just went to a domestic violence place. So can you please not tell, they were telling my people in the neighborhood not to give my daughter a ride, and it terrified me because all these things were going on. Her ride said that these teachers harass me all the time, telling me not to give your daughter a ride. I said, why would they do that? Even if I was mentally ill and they assumed it, why would you tell a woman tell the woman not to give my child a ride? Why would they mistreat my daughter over me if they can assume I was mentally ill? So the woman said, I'm not gonna not give her a ride, but that's why we were ostracized and isolated, because the teachers and spreading rumors in the community. But I didn't know the teachers, I wasn't really around them. So they were spreading these rumors to keep people away from us. So anyway, so the lady said, I'm still going to give your daughter a ride because I don't want her walking. It breaks my heart. But I just want you to know what they're doing, because it makes me uncomfortable that they keep harassing me, telling me not to give her a ride. I said, thank you. So I wrote a letter after I got back from the domestic violence place, and I said, do not tell people not to give my daughter. And then in addition to that, they called CPS prior and told CPS that I was letting her walk. And I told them that I did not want her walking, but I didn't have her another way. I told that to the principal. So if I asked if there was anybody in the community when I first got there that can give us a ride, I don't mind paying. And when we weren't on bad terms then, so she said, no, I don't know of anyone. I had already, I just was honest with her and told her I was concerned about my daughter walking, and then they call CPS and do that when that's a concern, and then they're telling people in the neighborhood not to give her a ride. So anyway, moving forward. So after I give them the letter and tell them to stop harassing her ride, they call CPS again and tell CPS I'm mentally ill. CPS comes, James Hastings, and he says that there's nothing happening in the community. She can walk. I think that you're paranoid. So I said, why would you think that I'm paranoid if we had a break-in and my car windows were busted out? So James Hastings leaves the meeting, drives off. He says, is there anyone else in the house? Is there anyone else in the house? So he leaves the meeting, drives off, acts his behavior is very suspicious and strange in the middle of the interview. There's somebody working on the utilities. So she says his behavior is odd. I said, you think I should call the police because he says he's CPS? She said, yeah, I would. So we call the police. He comes back, drives off in the middle of the interview, comes back. She says the police says something to her. She thinks, though, the person that was working on the utilities said this should be on body cam footage. She thought that it was weird, too. So I don't know. Maybe they were trying to set me up then and get me detained. I don't know. So then fast forward past that, we go to when the false arrest. That was, I believe, April 28, 2018. So it was April 28, 2018. So they're trying to set me up, and I keep on reporting things because I know I'm being set up. So I'm realizing things that so I'm reporting it to, nip it in the bud. So I'm calling the police department. So I called the police department to report another event that happened with my son. Because while they were causing havoc with my daughter, they were also causing havoc with my son. So I go call Mount Pleasant Police Department because they were withholding my child rights for my child in Mount Pleasant. They won't let me see him and doing a lot of things with my son. So he says that there's nothing going on with my son and he was going to build a case. He was going to put a case on me if I call back trying to see my son again. He said that his name was Deputy Dew. Okay, so I called the police because I said that he's talking about putting the case on me and about false statements and I want to get it resolved. He said that he was putting the case on me the next day. So I called the police department, the Cass County Police Department, because I'm getting set up. Cass County Police Department, not Cass County, but Itasca Police Department. I call on the non-emergency line. They keep hanging up in my face. So I call on the emergency line because he says that he's going to put a case on me, the police. I didn't know that they were involved in setting me up. So I knew that something was suspicious. So Itasca kept hanging up in my face. So I called the 911 line because he's about to put a case on me with all these things going on. So 911 hangs up in my face again and then sends the police out, and then they arrest me for 911 abusive call. And then they lie and say I assaulted an officer and I evaded arrest. Okay, so moving forward, James Hastings says that he's either going to CPS is going to take my child custody rights away. I said, for what? He said that you assaulted an officer and evaded an arrest. I said, those are false charges. I didn't really do that. You can look at the camera footage. They lied on me. Well, he said, well, we're taking your child custody rights away, so-and-so this, so-and-so that. So the charges are dismissed. So they send, and I keep writing letters stating what was going on with the school, how they were making false statements and doing all of these things. I talked to Regina Harris, the supervisor out of, I believe, Waco. Regina Harris I tell her about Stepmom leaving bruises on my daughter September 20. Supposedly, she says that she didn't do it, but she went over there for a while and came back with bruises September 24, 2011. The police took pictures, and some kind of way they didn't investigate and flipped it onto me. So I'm assuming that this chaos was going back then, because a lot of other strange events happened, which I won't go into. It'll take a lot of time. So not only that, in February of 2018, my daughter reported that she was whipping her with the metal part of the belt, and Stepmom did a lot of other things that were emotionally abusive. Like got her some earrings, new earrings in her ears. She took the earrings out and kept them after she had just, got her ear, the piercing, and it made her ears close, and they're closed to this day. So why would you do that if I just got her earrings, take the earrings out and keep them? So anyway, so I reported it to CPS and to Regina Harris and all those different people. They ignored it. I reported it to the 255th District Court. They ignored it. So they put a protection order on you, knowing that those charges were dismissed, assault and evading arrest. They put up the protection order knowing full-blown well. I wrote the 255th District Court telling them the charges were dismissed and false statements were being made. They ignored it. So they set up an order of protection stating that I can only see her on the weekends. I had visitation, or I can have her on the weekends, and I can go to school events, which I'm active in. Like I said, the basketball team came over. I baked cookies. I baked cakes. We had sleepovers, neighborhood parties. Even you couldn't. I admit you couldn't see that person anywhere in my experience, but that's who I was. Anyone that will be honest will tell you that. So I couldn't go. I could go to the events. So I got out of jail, and she would not let me see her. She kept hanging up in my face, and she wouldn't let me talk to her. So I went to the court, and I said that she's not abiding by the order that you said. So they set up a court date, October 26th. Kim Cook said I didn't have a court date when I showed up. Stepmom did not come. Okay. So they rescheduled it for March 22nd. So they scheduled the court date was at a certain time. They gave Stepmom more time to come. Stepmom didn't show. I tried to talk to the judge and say that she's not abiding by the order. He says I don't have a court date, and he didn't say that I could see my child. I said these charges are dismissed, so-and-so this, so-and-so that. He says you don't have a court date today. So I wrote the court, and I said the charges are dismissed. I told them about the abuse what happened with the bruises and what the reports to my child. They ignored it. So Stepmom wouldn't come. So July 10th, they set up a court date, and I was not on it. But they told me my court date was July 10th. My name was not on the docket. It said Attorney General and the dad. I also told the court that the dad is like special needs because he had a heart attack. Stepmom shouldn't have responsibility of my daughter because she's stepmom. But because he doesn't have the mental capacity because she has power of attorney over him and she takes care of him. So anyway, Um, the court ignores all of it and tells me to come to court on July 10th, and my name is not even on the docket. So I go to the police department. So they say they take my child custody rights away, knowing full blown well all these things that were going on. The charges were dismissed. They didn't adhere to their own order. Since she wouldn't let me see her, they said they just changed the order and said I had supervised visits, and they have no explanation why. Nothing that I've done. So July 10th, Kim Cook signed the order that my child custody rights were taken away. Well, I went to go report it August 1st to the Texas Rangers, what I was experiencing. And the child abuse, what happened in Itasca, and all these false statements were being made all over the place, you know. So Garland police come in and arrest me for criminal trespass. So I go to jail August 1st. I get out of jail because I had a court date August 2nd. It was supposed to be a dismissal hearing for the temporary order, temporary order with the supervised visits and all that. So I go to the court. They say that it's dismissed and it goes back to the original child custody agreement. They tell me that. Okay, so after that, it changed to now Judge Mary Murphy has taken my child custody rights away. That's the judge that they cannot find. So that's why it is child abuse. So why, if anyone is why is it taking so long for me to set up the supervised visits? At first, they said that it had to get mailed to me. The only way that I can get my child custody agreement is for it to get mailed, which didn't make sense. Because if I want to pick it up in court, I should be able to pick the records up at the records department. They didn't give me that right. They said the only way that I can get it was for it to get mailed. Well, in this corruption, they were not giving me my mail, which is a felony. Okay, Austin Street, I wrote housing authorities and signed up for housing authorities because they wouldn't give me services. So I wrote all kind of different places. I wrote for victims compensation and victims advocates, so I couldn't get services. I didn't get any of that mail from Austin Street. So it was strange. They gave me little mail, so it was like someone was going through my mail and wasn't giving me my mail because there was a lot of missing mail. So in addition to that experience, she claims that she mailed the custody agreement, but I never got it, which I didn't get a lot of mail from Austin Street. So with my sister, I wrote a lot of victims advocates. I wrote all kind of organizations to get out the corruption, all kinds of places to help. I blogged and got on sites and left my information and for attorneys, all kind of different things. And I didn't get mail from my sister either. So I called the police on them because they wouldn't give me my mail. They were like covering for my experience, but I know that they did it out of fear. They had to. So I called the police on them, and the police covered for it. So I went to the Keys location. So I kept putting holes all over the place at the Keys and they would not honor the holes. So I went to the Keys location. They still didn't honor the hole. I told them about the problems that I've been having with my mail and all the holes that I had. They would not honor the hole. So I called the police at the Keys location. I came back and called the police on the Keys location. It is a felony. In a post office doing it, I showed them all the holes, which at that time I think it was like 3 or 4 holes that I put because I started copying them. And I said they will not hold my mail. The police would not take the report. So I just gave up. So I started going to other post offices. Outside, I went to the Sullivan. They wouldn't do anything there. I went to 2 other locations, and the police came and here lately, which is on my channel, and intervened and gave me a criminal trespass for trying to report that I can't get my mail. So they said Family Place FLP claims that they needed a order of the custody agreement before I could set up the supervised visits, and I could not get one. So eventually the court, and then COVID closed down the court. So Stepmom wasn't letting me talk to my child over the phone. And also within like 3 years, I saw her like 2 times, for less than an hour, for minutes. So I told stepmom and dad. They said that they don't know what happened. They said that it was something about mental, but they don't really know what I did, which is because there's a lot of mentally ill people that have their children. I said, well, even if I'm mentally ill, what did I do for them to think that they needed to take my child custody rights? Stepmom don't know. She just said that they said something about mental. Well, in addition to all these things that had happened, when CPS incriminated themselves, they pulled out. They had stepmom. They set up a stepmom to take the fall and do everything to hinder my child custody rights. But stepmom is claiming she didn't do it, and then CPS is claiming they didn't do it. Because I thought in the state of Texas, if your child custody rights were at stake, you're supposed to get an attorney. They're supposed to be involved in programs. They didn't give me any of that, not even an attorney. So anyway, hindering a child custody agreement is a felony, and that's child abuse if these courts and all these people are involved in doing so. So that's why I said child abuse, and no one is taking the reports. So that's why I've called CPS 20 something times. They keep on closing it without even talking to me or investigating anything. So CPS won't take the reports of child abuse. They won't investigate. The police department won't do it. So it's just a really big cover up. This is long. I didn't realize it would be this long, but that's a nutshell in what happened.